for a lot of entrepreneurs today, the stress is all on you. The stress starts with you and ends with you. People perhaps don't want to show their wealth as much as they did a few years ago.
No, signora, you're making a big mistake. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Nadia's Lab. Today's episode, Luxury Meets Wellness, we will be discussing if high-end living can improve your health. I'm joined by brilliant Dillon Bhatt, who is an investor, advisor, and founder of LuxeForte. Dillon, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Nadia, for having me.
It's really good to see you after, I feel like 10 years.
Almost 10, which is crazy because you blink and a year passes.
I agree. You have been in luxury world and you are working on different things and you obviously founded LuxeForte. Do you want to tell me more about yourself and LuxeForte and what your what LuxeForte focuses on?
Sure. So actually, LuxeForte started or stems back a couple of years. I was after university where we met. I ended up joining my family business and moved to India and had the most incredible experience of my life. And I built, an office there and everything. But then COVID came, and I left India and went back home to Cyprus. And I think during that time, I really had like a deeper reflection on life. And I always had a passion for watches and luxury goods. And I think at that point, I kind of made a conscious decision to really follow and pursue something that I'm genuinely like deeply passionate about. So I ended up starting LuxeForte. Obviously, it's evolved over the years. But LuxeForte, in its capacity today, we are an agency, we're an advisor for a lot of the luxury brands. So we retail and distribute for them, but we also advise them on their strategic marketing actions. We create content for them, and we also do events for these brands.
That's really impressive, and I love your journey. And what would you say is the most surprising wellness ritual you've seen in the luxury world?
Um, Wellness ritual. I think the most surprising is how the adoption of Pilates has really taken on.
Right?
At such a fast pace, level, and it's something that brings people together, although it's quite an individual action.
Yeah,
But
I agree. I feel like you said, it was such an instant. Like it feels like it's an overnight thing, and people really pay a lot of money for those classes.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think there's a big disparity between like what you would pay even in Europe and London, and then you go to the US, and if you're going to do a class in LA, it's like $150
Oh
a
wow, for a
class.
Pilates class.
And so many brands are jumping on board with that. And
Yeah.
you're seeing
Do you
this.
think it's mostly reformer Pilates or?
So I would say more so reformer. I think there is obviously that premium, and brands want to be associated to that. So now that's not to say you're going to get a better class or, between class to class, but it's something that has brought people together and has become almost a luxury activity.
I agree, definitely. I wanted to discuss basically with you wellness in the luxury industry. And luxury isn't just about wealth, it's often about longevity, performance, and feeling good. So, what other, obviously, Pilates, and then have you seen any other wellness trends amongst high net worth individuals? Anything else they like to take or buy or go to do?
So I think what's interesting is that, you know, when you have everything, when you're at that level of your life where you're very content in, um, I guess in your financial stability and so forth, then you're able to put a focus on your health and wellness.
That's true.
Um, and so at that point, you're seeing that luxury travel has increased a lot. And as part of that, there's a lot of wellness activities that go into it, whether that's doing something that's like mind, body, and soul related, booking a specific resort for their activities and their facilities, or even just, going far away and basically cutting the rest of the world out and living
Yeah.
in that moment. And I
Yeah.
think that provides a lot of mental clarity.
I agree. And so many hotels have been focusing on, so they do workshops, they do classes, they do meditation,
Hmm.
sound meditation, or like you said, they might ask you to give them their phone so that
Yeah.
you're kind of away from everyone else. And do you think that obviously luxury clients, do they approach health differently? Obviously, you said because of their financial, I guess, capability and capacity, they can invest more in also like blood tests in this
Sure.
retreats, trips. Have you seen anything like IV drips, personal medicine, or biohacking?
I think biohacking is really has been at the forefront of what people are doing. NAD.
Yeah,
Um, I
that was
haven't.
going to be my next
Oh,
question. What do you
really?
think
Yeah.
about it? Yeah.
So I don't know enough of it, enough about it. I've taken IV drips in the past,
Yeah.
but I think also just general preventative things, so that I am getting old now. I have my wrinkles. Um, but no, it's more about preventing, you know, where if you have, let's say, a history in your family of diabetes, I have a like history of diabetes and high cholesterol. I'm more aware of that now, and I
Yeah.
think, luxury, or let's say people that have that financial ability, they're able to kind of invest into like learning more about those
Yeah, I
topics.
agree. And it is quite pricey, from, doing this IV drips to having the consultation, especially somewhere privately in London.
It is.
It can be very expensive. And what do you think of cryo chambers, or have you tried any of this, like cryo chamber, ice bath, anything? Have you adapted any of this wellness rituals or new technologies?
So cryo chambers, I've tried it once. Ice baths, I do believe there's a lot of like science behind it. I'm a bit afraid of the cold, so
Okay, then.
but I really love saunas. So I mean, it's something that, if I'll do my sauna, and then I'll jump into an ice bath for a couple of seconds. But you feel like mentally aware. Um, I personally feel way better from it. Something that I actively try to do is kind of meditate, um,
Meditation, okay.
and trying to like put that as part of my daily routine as much as I can.
That's really good. I think I've had someone recently here talk to me about biohacking and meditation, and she practices it meditating every week, and some people every morning. But I personally find it so difficult to, first of all, get in a routine, and also to really, during meditation, I feel like I cannot turn off my brain. And I remember being in Miami once, and it was like sound meditation, and I just fell asleep. Because
That's
it was
okay.
like we were just all on the ground and there were some sounds and wind, and I fell asleep. But maybe I should really.
So coming back to your when you asked me about my experiences in the luxury space, I I actually thought this was one of the most wild and most beautiful things that has actually like I've experienced personally, was that during our annual watch fair, which
Yeah.
is Watches and Wonders, so every April, um, they have this fair, and Hermes as a brand, as part of this huge exhibition, had a wellness room.
Oh, wow.
So they gave me the opportunity to book in for a sound healing and a meditation, and guided by an incredible instructor. And I can truly say that probably 45 minutes that I had was the most probably was the most looking back at it was the one of the most important experiences from that fair, because I was running at such a high level that that week was
Stress.
very intense, and I really really needed that 45 minutes to just kind
Yeah.
of cut out everything. And you see brands like Hermes, like Bulgari, like Cartier, really getting into these kind of wellness
Wellness, because I
experiences.
think that they are noticing that, people are still buying luxury goods, but they are also investing a lot in their mental health, in their bodies.
Hmm.
And I think the awareness has increased definitely recently. I don't know why. Is it because of social media? Is it because people are now reading and getting more information? So even people who are not in the medicine, they can know about all this stuff. They know what's good for them. They know what supplements, vitamins to take. Also, like through podcasts as well. I mean, it's one thing that I'm also doing, trying to educate people, and it's a good thing as well. I think it's definitely a good thing. And I was going to touch base on mental health and lifestyle. And you're someone who moves in high performance circles. How do you think success impacts someone's mental health?
It's it's very challenging because for a lot of entrepreneurs today, the stress is all on you. The stress starts with you and ends with you. So you end up taking on a lot of stress that you don't necessarily notice. And at least, in my experience, that I kind of keep like suppressing it, keep going at a very, very high level, and then almost like you hit a brick wall
Yeah.
and you need to kind of distance yourself. And then I typically work at, I'd go 100% and then like disappear for like 2 weeks and like not
Oh,
answer any
wow.
emails. So that for me works really well. But other people can, find that balance. And I think moving forward, it's really about finding that balance for each individual. So what I've found is that, in those circles, people tend to do that where they go at a higher pace and then distance themselves from it rather than trying to find that balance throughout their lives.
Yeah. And do you think that having your own business is much more stressful than working for someone else?
That's a very interesting question. I mean, I think stress for everybody is quite different.
Yeah.
I've grown up around entrepreneurs, and something that I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Um, so I've only seen that side of the
Perspective.
story.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say, like working for somebody else, people assume that, it's a 9 to 5 job and you clock off at 5 o'clock, but there are other stresses that go along with that.
Yeah.
I have the flexibility to work my hours. Imagine you have children, you
You
have to
don't
like,
have this flexibility.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's a
I guess
different type of
everything.
stress.
Yeah, it's a different type of stress. I agree. And do you think that the luxury world is finally addressing burnout and anxiety? I mean, even what Hermes did with that sound meditation, that was, I think it is.
I genuinely think they're aware of it.
Yeah.
Now, which brands and which segments of the industry are acting on it, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Um, but typically, I mean, luxury as a concept is very client facing. It's not, there is obviously the B2B element to it, but at the end of it, it is you're providing a service for or a product for the end consumer. And that's typically what luxury is for. So I think because of that, there is this drive to, you know, impact end consumers and people. And I think, yes, they're becoming more aware
Mm.
of mindfulness and trying to implement that.
Yeah. And do you think that people are moving toward luxury minimalism, or is excess still king?
That whole minimalist and maximalist conversation is, it's an ongoing thing. I think today, where we see the slowdown across the board, and people perhaps don't want to show their wealth as much as they did a few years ago.
Yeah.
So we are going, to perhaps much more of a minimalistic trend. Now, as a trend, you might have that quiet luxury thing was going on for a while. Um, Today, I think brands are going back to their roots, and they'll look through the archives and try to replicate things that they've seen that's worked well in the past.
Mm.
However, social media is so open today that people already know the value of anything. So whether you wear a watch or you wear a bag, people can just assume a value to that, and I think that's always going to be the opposite of luxury.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay, let's move on to food cooking and your new show. I'm very excited about your show. I know that you recently launched the show where you invite guests and you cook. Tell me about it. What inspired you?
So again, cooking for me as a kid was always kind of my escape.
Mm.
It was one of those things I used to do to like close myself to the rest of the world and like focus on, it was my meditation almost.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a chef growing up. So me and my co-host came up with this concept of let's do a cooking show where we talk about luxury
Yeah.
and we call it Time to Taste.
Time
And
to taste. I love that.
the idea is, taste as in, yes, we're going to eat the food, but taste as in, is that object tasteful? Is there like a deeper meaning behind it?
Yeah.
So the concept is we cook, but with guests,
Okay.
and those guests typically come from the luxury space, and they're either CEOs, brand directors, designers, or somebody that's positively impacted the luxury space. And we bring them on board, and yeah, we cook with them and we talk about their lives and how did they manage to kind of build their careers. And yeah, we've shot a few episodes, and so far it's been really good. It's been a really nice way to get people and to meet new people in the industry as
I
well.
guess it's a good experience for you and it's like fun and nice to talk to people. And where can people watch the episodes? Are they on YouTube? Are they?
So for the time being, they're on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's a long form podcast, so it's about 45 minutes to an hour each episode. And yeah, it's there for people to see, and we try to film these episodes in really iconic or beautiful locations around the world. So we've done a few in London. We have done some in Geneva as well, and now we're in the process to for our next guests to kind of like find very beautiful and meaningful locations for them.
Oh, that's lovely. I've actually watched one and I loved it, so I do recommend to anyone. And what role does food play in your wellness or lifestyle philosophy? Why did you choose, cooking well? Um, Having a chat. Why not just like a podcast or like being in a shop or something else?
So, I mean, food brings people together. So I'm of Indian descent, and
Okay.
food is all about sharing and sharing experiences. And I really believe it becomes a medium that everybody can understand.
Yeah.
So when you're cooking and when you're kind of like doing things, it becomes lighthearted. It doesn't need to be overly serious. Um, and yeah, it's one of those things that really brings people together, and you can share the love for food and share your passions over a meal, over a glass of wine. And I grew up in Cyprus, so that Mediterranean lifestyle, the Mediterranean cooking,
Yeah.
the use of olive oil and fresh ingredients is something that
I
for
love olive oil. I could, that's literally, I could just drink olive oil every day.
but
And
it's
it's
so
so
healthy.
beneficial. It's so healthy. Yeah, I don't think people are aware of how healthy it
It's so
is.
good for your skin. It's so good for
Yeah,
your kind of, you wake up and you radiate energy because
absolutely. No, I use it as a skin, like I put it on my skin sometimes to help me tan and
that's amazing.
moisturize the skin. It's amazing. I love it. Okay, so I have some other questions for you. And what do you think is the most underrated luxury wellness experience?
Underrated luxury wellness experience.
Something that maybe people don't even consider as a luxury, but it is.
I would say, I mean, it's different to everybody, right? So
Yeah,
I think for a lot of people, being by the sea
yeah,
is something that was very, therapeutic.
definitely.
Now, I recently went to Norway to see the Northern Lights,
Mm,
and again, was luxury in the sense that it's not something you get to do every day.
absolutely.
Was it in like a strenuous activity? Yes, we went out to look at the Northern Lights. We went sledding. We went on the snowmobiles and stuff like that, which was an incredible experience. But there were so many elements of just kind of being in nature that really clears your mind. And I think, just having that ability to leave your phone is today's luxury,
Yeah.
and is also today's
And also
remedy.
of being the nature, like you said. I think even like a walk in Hyde Park, like on a Friday after finishing work in London, it is a quite luxury that in such a like big city you have so much greenery,
Yeah.
and we don't get to appreciate it sometimes. And do you think that, so obviously you're a big watch collector as well, and do you think that number of people buying luxury watches is declining in recent years, and people are a bit worried of safety as well? And I know a lot of people who had their watches stolen,
Mhm.
and like you said, people are trying not to be, they don't want everyone to know how much they spend on something.
No, absolutely. I think over the last few years, there's been a very big, I mean, the amount of watches purchased has increased considerably.
Increased.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if you look at, let's say, the past 5 years, however, in the past 12 months, I'd say we're on a slightly declining level.
Okay.
Now, it's not that people are buying less watches. There are more educated people. There are people that are, learning about it through social media and are entering that market. However, the value that they're spending has reduced, unless you're
Mm-hmm.
talking at the ultra high end,
Okay.
which is actually seeming to do very, very well.
Mm. Okay, interesting. And I noticed this in some luxury brands, for example, Rolex, other, they were readily available in stores
Hmm.
2 years ago, or like maybe like 5, 6, 10 years ago. You could go in the store and you can buy it, or like get it next day, next week. Whereas now, for the exact same watches, there's like about year or even two waiting list. What's the whole? Are the brands doing that on purpose to make them more valuable and wanted, or is it difficult to
It's an
make?
interesting question. So I always put it down to, I mean, they're handmade goods, largely
Yeah.
handmade goods. So the amount of technical expertise required to make a luxury Swiss watch or a luxury watch in general, you need years of experience.
Hmm.
Now, when you look at the amount of people that are interested in buying these watches today, has dramatically increased even from 5 years or 10 years ago. So the
Yeah.
demand is far greater than the supply.
Okay.
So as a simple exercise, um, people are going to have to wait longer for their watches. Now,
Mm.
Rolex makes around 1.3 million watches a year, which
1.3 million. Okay.
which is still a sizable amount, but
Yeah.
you would assume that, well, Rolex, it's everybody's first watch, their graduation watch, you pass your, you get married, you're going to get gifted one. Like there's a lot of people that are looking to buy a Rolex today. So the
Yeah.
demand for a Rolex is probably around 5 million watches a year. So because of that, it happens. But then you look at very small independent watches, like one of the watches I'm wearing today, the brand makes 800 watches a year. So
Oh,
very,
wow.
very small, very niche. But you've got 10,000 people waiting or 20,000 people
Oh,
waiting for,
wow.
a brand that only makes 800 watches. So,
What's the longest you've heard someone wait for a watch?
I mean, I've heard crazy stories like, oh, you're gonna have to wait 10 years
Oh, wow.
or 15 years on the waiting list. At that point, just like
What's the
forget
point?
it.
Forget about it. And do you think, okay, this might be a bit controversial, and I'm not, pointing fingers. I'm probably including myself in this, but do you think that some people turn to luxury or high-end brands? Basically, they buy branded stuff in order to express themselves, to fill in the gap of maybe lack of
Mhm.
personality or them being not as interesting.
So I would definitely say that yes to both parts of that question. People definitely turn to luxury as a self-expression. It tells somebody who you are before you walk into a room. Now, there are different ways of expressing that, whether you like, big logos and, heavily branded objects, then that's you and that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and then you also find people that love luxury but very understated luxury,
Yeah.
which also tells you about that person because they're not trying to impress anybody but themselves. Now, where it fills a part of a gap of their personality. Um, yeah, you do see that because people try to almost show that there's something that they're not because they follow trends or they've learned about something and they want to kind of, they don't know enough about themselves to feel comfortable in that. So they're willing to kind of spend more money on a watch that
Mm.
then tells people that I have money, or they're willing to do something to kind of like fill that gap.
Yeah.
But there's nothing right or wrong, and
Yeah.
people need to feel comfortable in their skin, in what they wear, the watches they wear. And at some point you'll go through that motion of kind of like figuring it out. And when you get to that end, that stage, it's very fulfilling also.
Yeah. I think it's a good point. I think people just need to figure out, and there's that people can spend money on what they want essentially. If
Yeah,
they work for it, they should be able to. And sometimes, buying something, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of like big logos and everything. But I think sometimes when you're younger or you just have a phase and you go through
yeah,
it, and yeah, nothing wrong with it.
but it's okay.
But yeah, it's completely fine. But it at the same time, I also like sometimes, especially if you can't afford something, the need to show off something that you actually can't afford, I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's where, that means you maybe have a personality issue because at the end of the day, if you like a bag and you really want to buy it, you're going to wear it, then buy it. No one should judge you, right? But if you can't afford it and you are desperately wanting it and you think that that bag is going to make your life better or a watch, well, that is wrong because it won't. Um,
You'd be really surprised. People buy watches and it almost I'm not telling people to do this, but it opens a lot of doors.
mm.
So having, a certain watch, and I've seen it, people, again, coming back to our previous thing, is like people are going to judge you one way or another.
Yeah,
So
sure.
when you have a nice watch, and you walk into a room, people are going to assume that you've made money and stuff like that.
Mm,
Now, and that's not to say that you have or whatever, but it also can bring you a lot of happiness. I buy watches because it makes me really happy, but
yeah,
also when I do wear a watch and I go into a room of collectors, um, there is a level of, okay, he has access to it. That means he's worked his way up to get it, or
Mm,
he didn't have to wait 10 years on the waiting list, so
mm.
he must be
So I
important,
think it's like
or
an
things like that.
icebreaker, I
It
guess,
is.
if you're in those circles. I get you. I agree with that part. And what do you think is the best watch to purchase in 2025, as in something that will have most value? I don't know if you can even say this. Is this some secret
No, no. So the
information?
watch to buy in 2025 is the same watch to buy in 2024 and the same watch to buy in 1990. It's the one that you love, you fall in love with, and you're gonna wear every day.
Okay.
And it has to be intrinsically meaningful for you, rather than, having a monetary value. Whether that's a £10 flick flack, or it's, a £20 or £20,000 Rolex, or whatever it is. It has to be something that you gravitate towards, and there's no right or
Mm,
wrong answer.
okay. Love them. Is there any health gadget or like hack or trick you can't live without? Something that you do maybe on daily basis. It's part of your routine or that you do occasionally. You mentioned you had your matcha today. I offered you some matcha. You said I had a coffee and a matcha.
So again, I almost find it very therapeutic in the process of making coffee.
I love that.
I have my espresso machine. I go and I like research the beans that I wanna. I'm
Mm.
very mindful, and I always put a purpose on whatever I do. So if I'm going to make a coffee, I want to try and make it the best coffee. And if I'm going to do my work, I'm going to try and make the best work. And I try to do everything with a purpose behind it. So I actually really enjoy spending that 10 minutes in the morning making the coffee. It's probably, I shouldn't, because I'm always late to do this. But that 10 minutes really clears my mind and sets me up for the day.
Yeah.
And it's very therapeutic. And I think people need to do what really makes them feel happy as well.
Are you an espresso person or is it like a longer, like cappuccino or something? Or
Always an espresso.
always an
First thing in the
espresso?
morning, a double espresso. No sugar, no
I don't
milk.
know, have you noticed, but I know that when I was in Italy and also here, I think in Italian restaurants in London, if you order anything other than espresso, like especially like cappuccino or latte, anything after breakfast, you are being judged. You will be judged by those waiters. So, like, whether it's lunch or dinner, when you finish eating your pasta, spaghetti, whatever, and you order a cappuccino, they'll be like, no, signora, you're making a big mistake. So I guess you're very much almost like an Italian person, very much like
I've always said that. I said to myself, if, in another life, I probably would have been Italian.
yeah, I can see that. And I was gonna ask, what's better investment, rare watch or a healthy body? And don't hate me for this
And
question
it's always a healthy body, because you can't enjoy your watches if
if
you're
you're
not
not
healthy.
healthy. I
And
agree.
you can have all the watches in the world, but if there's something that um yeah, you need to put that priority on yourself, on your mindfulness, and making sure that you're the best version of yourself if possible.
Yeah.
So
And I don't know, do you drink alcohol
I
or
do.
okay? So meditation or martini?
Oh, that's a tough one. So, everything in balance.
Yeah.
My life is very social, my work is very social, so I end up perhaps drinking because of that. And it opens doors, because you're going to be around people and you need to have that. But at the end of the day, everything has to be in balance. If you're drinking, 30 drinks a week, then you have problems. Um, but you need to balance that out with your meditation. You need to balance that out with your diet. You need to work out and find what works for you.
Yeah, I agree about balance. Everything needs to be in balance. And what's one rule you live by for success? Whether it's success in anything, your cooking show, your business, your
So I I'm of the opinion that you just do what you love and just cancel out the noise. There's always going to be somebody that says, "Why did you post that on Instagram?" Oh, he's trying to be an influencer. Or why is he pretending that he's going to go to this event or whatever? Like, you're going to fail loads of times in your life, in your career, in lots of things, but it's about how you react to that.
yeah.
I was actually having this conversation with my sister today, and she's in real estate, so something completely different to what I'm in. And she's like, "Oh, but should I post this on my Instagram, because, you know, people are going to judge me for it?" And you're like, the people that are successful don't have time to judge you. They're busy building their own businesses.
Yeah,
It's the people that aren't doing anything with their lives are the ones that are going to
judging.
judge you. So
Yeah.
just jump
But
back into it.
that's, I agree with you 100%. And one of the, from doing this podcast and having a lot of important people and successful people, whether it's whichever field it is. And one of the advice that they would, most of them would give me, like what you said essentially as well, is you have to stop caring what other people think. And honestly, like, yes, sometimes it feels cringe. Sometimes you're like worried, yeah, is someone gonna make fun of me? But like you said, other people who are successful are busy with their life. They won't have time to judge you, and you shouldn't really worry. And even if someone doesn't like it, there'll be more people who do like it.
So
So yeah, did she at the end up post that what
yeah,
she wanted to? Yeah, I'm happy for her. And any advice for someone who wants to work in luxury business other than the advice you just given? So specifically for luxury business and follow your footsteps, and how can someone get in touch with you and see more about what you do?
sure. So I think luxury as a whole is like it's quite an attractive space to be in. You
Yeah.
know, people see that on social media. It's like fast pace, it's like luxury living. So there's a lot to be attracted to that industry. Um, I would always advise like people to just get in touch with, you know, their peers on LinkedIn or through social media and DM them, try to attend like trade shows or wherever they can, try to have that interaction. And you never know where it's gonna end up for you. That's how I started.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back, it was the best thing I could have done is just like turn up. And even when the door closes, like another one's gonna open. You just gotta turn up every day and keep doing what you love.
I agree. And in terms of making connections, do you think those are important? And what, where is, other than LinkedIn and reaching out, are there any places that people should go to make connections if they want to start their own luxury business or any other
For
business?
sure. I mean, if you're gonna, you know, want to get into the watch space, then you need to go to Geneva during the watch
Mm,
fairs. If you want to get into luxury design, then you have to go to Milan during Design Week.
mm.
You know, you have to be present at where the movers and shakers of the industry are going to be. Um, and yeah, you have to integrate yourself. Do not be afraid to go and like risk it all because if you want to build something, every day is a risk and you have
Yeah.
to weigh that
And
up.
also sometimes the most difficult thing is to just start. So yeah, just
Exactly.
start and yeah, put yourself out there. Well, this brings us to an end. Thank you so much for your time. It's really lovely to see you after so many
It's been a
years.
pleasure.
And I love your cooking show. You guys should definitely check it out. And I love what you do. Again, looking absolutely fashionable and amazing.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, hopefully one day I'll come to your cooking show
Okay.
and I'll learn how to cook that pasta. But thank you so much for joining me
No,
today.
thank
It
you so
was a
much, Nadia.
pleasure. I hope you like this episode. Please remember to subscribe, follow, share, and join me next week for another episode. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.